Welcome. Perhaps you were scrolling around, maybe doom scrolling on YouTube, and happened to come across this video, and maybe it was happen chance that you found it. However, maybe it was not. Maybe there's a reason why you're here, and I invite you to stay with me for a moment to consider what I'm about to share here. So let's just pause for a moment and create a little bit of space by connecting in and taking a breath. And just allowing the self to arrive here in the moment, regardless of what you're doing. And here within this space, allow yourself to get comfortable. You might feel like you want to click past because the pace of what I'm sharing is a little slower than maybe what you're used to. But give it a moment. This is one of those opportunities to connect, to go in just a little bit beneath the surface. These are important moments. They're easy to bypass. They're easy to look past. To stay within the mind and the thought and what is to come of the day and all that needs to be done. Yet, here now for just a moment in time. Join me. And as you drop into this space, put your attention for one moment into the heart space. You can touch your heart if your hands are free, or you can just drop your awareness into your heart. And as you drop into your heart, I'm going to invite you to consider, what if there is nothing wrong in this moment? What if? Whatever you think is the problem, whatever is bothering you, whatever you think needs a solution, what if you just allowed yourself to consider for just one moment, what if all is as it is supposed to be, and you drop the illusion that something is wrong? What comes up for you in this moment when you consider that all is well? Can you give yourself that moment? For me, when I consider that, it brings this feeling of wanting to just take a breath. It feels better to consider that nothing is wrong. There's nothing that needs to be fixed. So following this line of thinking, there is an illusion that many of us believe. We have times where we feel connected to ourself, to source. We feel the flow, the inspiration, things are going well. And then we find ourselves once again falling into the belief that something is wrong because it doesn't appear the way that we want it to be appearing. Sometimes because we're not feeling great, we believe that that is too wrong. We expect ourselves to be happy all of the time, to live in a place of feeling like we need to get rid of the stress. It's part of life to feel stress. It's part of life for us to sometimes feel happy and at peace and full of joy, but it's also sometimes part of life to not feel happiness. It's all part of the whole. So one of the biggest illusions that we hold, along with the belief that there is something wrong, is that there are times we're connected and times that we're not. But I'm going to give you the truth. And the truth is that you are never not connected. That is the biggest distortion. And the moment that you believe that you're not connected, you begin to disconnect yourself from truth, from source. So my question to you here is, in what way do you feel connected to source? What helps you remind yourself that you're always connected, even in the moments where you believe with every cell in your body that you are not connected? In what way can you remind yourself that you are connected? It's that simple. It's taking a moment to stop and pause and to have the memory, the remembrance, to remind ourselves, to notice if we're thinking that we're not connected to source. Source lives within us. It's the cells of our body. It's our heartbeat. It's our breath. We are all masters at breathing. It's how we're here. So the more that we surrender into the flow of the breath and allow it to be what it is, to have its natural expression, we immediately connect into truth, to source, as it flows within. A lot of what we think in our life is wrong comes from this disconnect, from believing that somehow that is that over there and we are here and we are not connected. But as I sit here in the sun, feeling the light of the sun, sure, the sun is up over there. However, I feel its warmth. I'm connected to it. I'm not disconnected. This wisdom is within us at all times. And it's a simple adjustment. However, many times we're operating from wanting something outside of us to create a feeling for us so that we can then be reminded that we are an expression of source, that we are connected to source, that we are truth, that the truth, the wisdom, all the answers live within. And it's helpful when we find moments like I have right now where I can come sit in the sun and feel the warmth of the sun to remind me of all of these truths. However, I don't need this experience to remind me of that. Because like I said, within us, with something just as simple as the natural breath, is the remembrance. So today, as you move through your day, the invitation is to consider the situations of life, whatever happens, the people you come in contact with, the work tasks, all that is to be done, all of the doing, to give yourself a pause and to ask yourself, what am I believing is wrong here? And what if nothing is actually wrong? What if it is just my opinion, my belief about it, my distorted perception that thinks that there's something wrong because it doesn't look a way that I expect it to be? And to check in and ask, in this moment, am I allowing myself to feel connected? So I see a question here that I'm going to answer. So what is your opinion on disconnecting the connections for the betterment of the relationship? I'm curious what you mean by disconnecting the connections. Maybe you can add another comment in here and let me know if that is about leaving a relationship for the better of a relationship, or what you mean by disconnecting the connections. And I will further elaborate on that when I understand what you're asking there a little bit better. Thank you also for asking a question. And if anybody is watching has more questions, you're welcome to share. Oh, like severing emotional cords. Well, that's a different question. Okay, yeah. So, right, emotional cords. So with this connection, because we are connected to everything, sometimes we develop attachments to certain situations. We get attached, or I might even use the word addicted, to certain emotions tied to certain connections, and that keeps the cord alive. So to really sever an emotional cord is to look at the emotions that are tied to the situation, the person, place, or thing, and to look at the story you're telling yourself about that connection. There's a lesson and a gift. So the more that you go in to do the deeper work surrounding that particular relationship or connection that's bringing up the emotion, you'll start to understand what it's showing you, what it's teaching you. There is a truth that lives within. So if you're operating from the belief that you are connected to source and that nothing is wrong, there's still something to learn in those places where we're holding on, where we're allowing ourselves to remain attached to situations that are not for our highest good. And sometimes that does mean letting go of connections with situations, people, places that aren't serving our highest good. That is for the betterment of the relationship. Our feelings are natural expressions. It's natural to have a range of different emotions that we have. We can work with our thoughts, and we can change our behaviors and our actions. So if there is a particular emotion that comes up surrounding a situation often, and you want to find a new emotional expression, then I invite you to look at the story you're telling yourself surrounding that particular situation. Because somewhere in there, in the story, is a belief, something you're telling yourself. And that belief may not serve you anymore. It might not be true. It might be true, but it might not be serving you anymore. And it's from that place that it is within you to find the actual truth, the new belief, and to begin to change it. And that does ask that we change our actions. So an example, if there is a relationship that doesn't serve your highest good, and you realize there is a limiting belief or a false story that you're telling yourself surrounding that particular connection, you might become aware of the belief and start to tell yourself a new story, however, continue to hang out with the person. Every time you're hanging out with the person, you're reinforcing the old belief. So if you want to reinforce a new belief, then there has to be a new action that will reinforce that new belief. I hope that makes sense and answers the emotional cord question just a little bit. So now I'm seeing disconnecting the step relationships for the purpose of strengthening newer relationships. Absolutely. I mean, look, a relationship is either going to be able to transform and grow, or sometimes we come together with people for a period of time, and then it's important to recognize when it's time to walk away. And it doesn't always have to be a bad thing. Sometimes we make it be bad so that we have a reason to walk away from a relationship. But sometimes it's just not vibrating well. We're just not feeling great, or maybe we're realizing that whether it be by time or space, or we're just not feeling called to be connected to a person anymore, and we're looking for newer connections and a different type of connection with someone, then sometimes it does mean allowing ourselves to let go of relationships, so we have the space, the energy, the time, the desire to form new bonds with people. And I think that at the root of that is attachment. And sometimes we don't want to let go of connections with people because we think we're going to hurt their feelings, or we feel indebted to them for a reason, or we feel like there's some reason why we have to stay connected to someone. And it's okay to, have friendships and connections and relationships with people, and for them to go through their life process. We're not always meant to stay with someone for eternity, right? Some people we do. Some people we're connected to them and we're in relationship with them for a while. So I hope that gives you a little bit of an answer to what you're kind of bringing up there. But I do invite you to look at, if there is something that you're holding on to, but you're wanting to let go of, that is for you to look at, to say, why am I holding on to this, right? What's my attachment to this? And on the topic of relationships here, sometimes, like I said, a relationship needs to transform and grow, or it's gonna start to do its ending process. So sometimes for a relationship to transform and grow, it requires having conversations and talking about difficult emotions, or what I call hard truths, our feelings. And sometimes that can be really scary or intimidating to bring up to someone some of our vulnerable spaces. And so I invite you to really consider, in relationships, have you given the relationship an opportunity to transform and grow? Have you allowed yourself to be vulnerable, to have the discussion with someone, to see if there's a possibility for it to transform and grow? Because sometimes we can, and I've done this, where, to avoid having that type of a conversation, I've been like, I don't want to be connected to that person anymore. But it's a way to avoid going into those vulnerable spaces with another person, to allow something to grow and to transform and change. And some of those relationships, even when I allowed myself to have the conversation, still came to their natural end. However, others were able to transform and grow, but it wasn't comfortable to attempt to go in and open up dialogue with someone to see, if there was a possibility for a connection to evolve, basically. So, yes, I'm happy that gave you a little bit of insight into that. So I want to kind of the disconnecting connection part. So when I'm talking about connection, I'm kind of talking about our own connection to ourself, to source, to that. And, even though we're connected to, everything is connected and interconnected in the web of life, I think this is really about challenging the illusion within that we believe that somehow there's that over there and this over here and we're disconnected, because ultimately we're all in this dance. We're all breathing the same air, right? Even right now, I'm here, you're where you are, but ultimately we're all still breathing the same air. We're all still, the breath of life is still moving through all of us in every moment. The same sun is still shining in the sky. And if it's evening when you're watching this, then, the same stars are in the sky. So we just remember that, we're never disconnected. And I think the biggest invitation I can make here is for you to consider, in moments where you're feeling disconnected, to at least become aware of that and to recognize and consider, what if I'm not disconnected right now? What if that is just an illusion? And if you're connected, then what truth lives there for you in that moment? And in the moments where you do feel disconnected, how can you embody that connection? How can you bring yourself back into that sense of feeling connection? The way I do it is the breath, because I have access to the breath wherever I go. It's simple. It's within me. There's nothing I need. It's always right there. So it's just a matter of tapping into it and reminding myself that regardless of whether I'm aware of it or not, my breath is happening. And then there are moments like this where I give myself space to come up to the rooftop area that I'm at, where I live, and to just sit here and notice where my mind is going and to let it go and just come into the present moment and just to consider, what if nothing is wrong? What if everything I perceive to be wrong is just an illusion? So that's my invitation on this random live pop-up. And if you stayed with me here till now, thank you. And thank you, Nick, as well. I appreciate your comments and your questions, and as well for the other person who shared the question about emotional cords. I thank you as well for commenting. Please subscribe to my channel. You know, I'm a real person, an organic person. I don't do things the way that maybe a lot of other people do them on YouTube. However, I do appreciate the subscription, and I do appreciate if you like the video. And also, you know, if you go about your day and you found that an awareness came to you, feel free to come back and share on the comments, you know, when you considered, what if nothing's wrong? You know, I'm a coach in the world, so I love to have that feedback from people and hear, you know what, I considered that and here's what came up for me. So please feel free to come back and share it. And I do look at comments and I will respond back to them. So may your day be full of beauty, and may you see beyond the distortion that something is wrong and that you are disconnected into the truth that lives within you. And in the moments where you find that your mind is running a marathon within and you're disconnecting or feel like you're disconnecting, to find the breath, to give yourself that inhalation and that exhalation, and just to remember right then and there, all is well right now, regardless of my perception of it. All right. Thank you so much, and I'll see you again soon. Take good care. Bye.